This is the Gambling Gauchos.
What is up, everybody? Welcome in Texas Tech fans and fans from across the Big 12. Fun Saturday of college football. Rob, give me a second here. I'm sending you an invite. Need to give a quick shout out to our sponsor of Gauchos After Dark, Barnett, Howard, and Williams Law Firm, bhwlawfirm.com. And they told me to tell y'all that they get credit for the win today because they emotionally hedged and picked Texas minus 6.5. So we're giving all credit to the dub in Lubbock today, to Barnett, Howard, and Williams. Want to talk about a bunch of other games across the Big 12 today as well, because there's some good ones, as well as West Virginia on Thursday night getting a rivalry win over Virginia Tech. Rob, how's it going, man?
Let's
Let's
go.
go. Hey, Adrian Martinez didn't write back, though.
He's back.
They wrote him off, but he didn't write back.
He did not write back. Good grief. What a game.
Yeah.
That third and forever run that he had up the middle and then to the sideline iced the game.
Yeah. Man,
Badass.
what a win for them. I mean, I was shocked. I mean, I'm among those who wrote them off after the Tulane debacle last week. Hope we have some K-State fans in here, but man, what a bounce back win in Norman, top 10 Oklahoma team, and not the first time Kleiman has done that, coming off a bad loss and then bouncing back against OU. So, it's funny. The Big 12 goes 2-0 against the SEC today, and they stuck Tech versus K-State at 11 a.m. on ESPN Plus next weekend. And those are the two teams that are 1-0 in Big 12 play. Can't make it up.
Strong.
Well, where do you want to start? You want to go in chronological order and start Thursday with West Virginia, Virginia Tech?
Yeah, but I don't really want to spend a bunch of time on that game because it is what it is. Virginia Tech looked awful.
They're bad. They're bad. They lost to Old Dominion for a reason. But, hey, West Virginia, they win a rivalry game, a Power 5 game on the road. It has to count for something. And their loss to Kansas, while not great, is looking better by the day. So, I guess I'm curious about that game and that outcome because I'm wondering what the bottom of the Big 12 is and who that is and how bad is the bottom of the Big 12. And I don't know. It's looking like whoever the 10th place team is still might be a tough out.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. No, there's not really a bottom of the Big 12. I don't know that there's a top. Who's the best team in the Big 12 today and who's the worst? If I stuck a stick in your back and said who's the best, who's the worst, I'm fairly comfortable saying West Virginia is the worst, but
Yeah.
I mean, is Kansas State back on top?
No. Well, I guess I'd put Oklahoma State at the top right now just based on resume
Yeah.
because they've avoided the other teams that we thought might be at the top. Let's call it Baylor, Texas, OU. They've all lost. And I mean, Oklahoma State, their best win isn't super impressive, against an Arizona State team that just fired their head coach, but at least they haven't faltered yet. So, I mean, if I was doing a power rankings, I'd probably put the Pokes number one, but I don't feel great about it.
You want to talk about Herm Edwards for a while, or should we move on?
No, I think we covered enough Herm Edwards on the last episode. But yeah, and then Oklahoma State's on a weird week 4 bye this year, and so we didn't get to see them on a Saturday where I thought we learned a decent amount about some other teams in the Big 12. Baylor winning in Ames, I was impressed by that. I think that it doesn't absolve them of the BYU loss. Come on, go inside. Sorry, dealing with my dogs. But shows they can beat a solid team on the road, and nobody apologizes for Big 12 road wins. So I don't know, man. If I was doing power rankings, it would be legitimately difficult. I don't know who I would put number 9 or 10 at this juncture. Feels like anybody you put there is kind of a bit of a hot take besides West Virginia.
Yeah, I think so. I think West Virginia fairly easily. Um, Baylor, what did we really learn? I mean, they got a free first drive touchdown. Um, I would like to go back and watch that game, just like I'll go back and watch the Texas Tech game. TCU struggles with SMU, um, kind of. I mean, they ended up beating them by a touchdown, but I just have no idea. And all the way up and down, like we said, Kansas State awful last week, bounce back this week. Texas Tech uh, awful in some ways last week, bounce back this week. The defense, best part of last week, was not very good in the first half. Stellar in the second half today against Texas until the final drive where they use 4 plays to go get a field goal. And then you force the fumble in overtime. I don't know. I'm really, really excited about the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, I mean, I legitimately don't know. So, like the teams that you might have put number 9, like if we agree that West Virginia is number 10, I think the teams that most people would have put 9 before today was Texas Tech, who's 1-0 in Big 12 play with wins over 2 ranked teams.
Yep.
I've seen TCU in that spot. They're 3-0. They've won on the road at SMU, on the road at Colorado. So, like, I don't think you can put either one of them at number 9. And then you get to, do you put 4-0 Kansas at number 9? Do you put K State, who just won in Norman, at number 9? Do you put Texas, who almost beat Alabama, at number 9? I mean, it just doesn't. I don't know who you put there alongside West Virginia, and even West Virginia, I don't think is going to be just a cakewalk for anybody. I think they're a competitive team.
What are we playing?
So,
Horseshoes, Kyle?
well, yeah, hand grenades
Almost
maybe.
beat Alabama.
Hey, hang the banner, man. That was a moral victory.
It's their Super Bowl.
Um, let's talk about the TCU SMU game because Max Duggan still the starter for TCU, and he had a good game. He was a guy that we talked about before the season as kind of his biggest flaw was the inaccuracy. And great athlete, made a ton of plays with his feet, but career, I don't know, 55% passer. Well, he went 22 for 29 today, and this was their biggest test of the season to this point. SMU, I view them kind of similarly to Houston in terms of like they're not Power Five, but they're better than a lot of Power Five teams. And so his play impressed me. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Now he did get a lot of yards on a push pass that literally you or I could have made. But overall, I mean, I thought they would be a bottom half of the Big 12 team, and they still might be. But they continue to win road games, and Duggan looks like he's taking a step forward.
How bad was Robert Meacham's offense, by the way, over at TCU? I'm not going to blame Sonny Cumbie. It was Robert Meacham's offense. I mean, Max Duggan looks like a completely different quarterback. So, yeah, hey, good for you. Um, I mean, you have to do tiers. You were going through all the Big 12 teams earlier. You have to do tiers, and I think there's 2 tiers. There's 9 teams, and then there's West Virginia. So there's two tiers right now in the Big 12. I need a couple of weeks before I can separate anybody. Um, but yeah, Max Duggan impressive so far. Jalen Daniels still consistently the best quarterback in the Big 12, and I don't think that's hyperbole anymore.
We need to talk about that. Let me see if I can find the tweet. Um,
He's got Heisman odds that have just absolutely boosted. Now
yeah,
they won't stay that way because they'll lose a couple, and you're not
says
going
who?
to have Heisman odds. What do you mean
Says
says
who?
who? What do you mean says who? I'll stop.
I mean, we've been saying they're going to lose since Tennessee Tech. All they do is win, man.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just saying.
All they do is win.
Uh, that's all they've done this year.
They
No, but
played Duke and Tennessee Tech and West Virginia, who we just got blah, blah. You got me all flustered, man. Kansas,
they beat West Virginia on the road. They beat Houston on the road. They
who we
beat
just
Duke.
put alone as the worst team in the Big 12.
They
Now
beat
we're talking about getting in.
undefeated Duke at home
Oh, don't give me undefeated Duke. They beat Duke.
when they should have been hosting College Game Day. So I can't find the tweet, but I think he is at least earlier today at like some Heisman Live odds, he was 7th best odds to win the Heisman Trophy, Jalen Daniels, and he was like, I don't know, probably not even on the radar to begin the season. So, like Kansas as a bowl team, I feel like that's borderline lock at this point. I mean, they could just collapse, but they're 4-0. Man, what a turnaround there! And I don't know if they're for real in terms of like, are they going to win 8 or 9 games? But they can score. Jalen Daniels is a baller. I said this to you on the radio show this morning. I think they might be a little bit like 2015 Texas Tech. They're going to lose some shootouts because their defense isn't great, but they can absolutely have a winning record this season, I think.
Yeah, they're a lot like 2016, I think, or even 2013. I think they have a really good quarterback. Defense is still suspect. Again, call me in 5 weeks on Kansas.
No, you can't. No, you need to give them a little more respect.
Hold on. No, I don't need to give them anything, but I'll let Chase. Chase
Look,
wants to talk about Kansas.
no, well, hang on. No, this isn't. They beat Tennessee Tech. Let's wait on Kansas. They beat Tennessee Tech, and then they beat Houston on the road, West Virginia on the road, and Duke, undefeated Duke.
I can do whatever I want, so I'll wait on them.
I'll wait maybe a week or two. I'm not waiting 4 more weeks on Kansas. They're real.
Let me look at their schedule.
All right, go ahead, Chase.
Hey, Rob, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Rock Chalk. Anyways, hey, man, I've been saying it like they're my sleeper team. Been telling my buddies, like, watch out for Kansas. It's not a pushover. And I said they're going to start 5-0. I can't say after that, but they could beat Iowa State next week. They legit have a shot at that. Daniels is the best of the 3 Daniels QBs in the Big 12. We can at least say that. And I said this in Discord earlier. I think Joey McGuire just went on 4th down again, and Donovan finally did what Donovan's supposed to do. Make a couple of reads, don't find it, just bolt, dump it off, played the quarterback he's supposed to play. And that is why they won this game today. Outside of the ballsy-ass play calling by Joey and letting them go for it and just feeding off the crowd, Donovan did his job today. He just protected the ball and did his job, and it was fucking perfect. Excuse my language. But, I mean...
Family show, Chase.
None of us, bleep me, none of us have been alive the last time that Texas Tech won against UT in Lubbock in September. It's the dumbest stat ever, and it never should happen again, but 1976 was the last time. My dad was in high school. I mean, it's crazy.
Man, you just dropped a Kyle Omlang stat on us. A Tech Fact Saturday. All right. Hey, new rule. Anybody who requests to speak when you come on, you have to tell us on a scale of 1 to 10, how real is Kansas? And you have to tell us power ranking the Big 12, who's number 1 and who's number 10. Is that fair, Rob?
Yes. You ready for this? Kansas is going to start 6-0 and then go 0-6 to finish.
Hey, 2016 Baylor, same deal. And then they won their bowl game against Boise State.
Yep. That's going to happen. They're going to finish 7-6. I'll lock it in.
Okay. I can go along with that.
We have a believer, Kyle. We have a believer.
We've converted him. Rock chalk, baby. Doss, I think you're next. What's up, man? You got to tell us how real is Kansas? Scale of 1 to 10. Power ranking the Big 12. Who's number 1? Who's number 10?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
See, I never thought Kansas was too legit, to like begin the year, but after seeing, the West Virginia game and, this week, and I would put Kansas at least like middle of the Big 12 so far. But
who do you think is the best team in the Big 12, worst team in the Big 12, and then any other questions or comments you have for us?
Doss, where'd you go, man? Did you pass out? I think we lost Doss. Kyle, let's go to the next one.
All right. Do we have anybody else approved? Let me approve Mitchell real quick. Mitchell, whenever that loads for you, how real is Kansas? Power rankings of the Big 12. Who's number 1? Who's number 10? And then whatever your question or comment is.
First off, shout out to Doss. I mean, that was epic right there.
Electric.
Electric. I didn't know we were a Kansas podcast now, but I will say this: best in the Big 12 right now. It's too early. Blend between Baylor and Oklahoma State. Worst, West Virginia. Sorry, Graham Harrell. We love you. Secondly, Blue Barrel in Abilene, Texas, the spot. I've been here for a minute, boys. Y'all know about that. Um, all I got to say is I think Dana B is going to commit to Tech after a beautiful showing today. Somebody already said Donovan played a great game, didn't turn the ball over. And I think both of y'all actually took Texas in the spread. So, with that being said, boys, I don't really have much to say other than Reckham. Love y'all, and I'm out of here.
Hey,
Appreciate
Mitchell.
it, Mitchell.
Appreciate it. And that's why the emotional hedge always works, because either we were going to make some money or Texas Tech gets a huge win. And so we'll take it either way. Let's see. Who's next? Chuck, I think you're next.
We got
How real
Robert
is-
in first.
Oh, okay, Robert, go ahead. How real is Kansas? Who's number 1 in the Big 12? Who's number 10 in the Big 12?
All right, number 10. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Number 10, I think, is West Virginia as well. I think TCU is number 9, but I wouldn't be surprised to see those two spots flip throughout the season. And I think number 1 has a chance to end up being Baylor, but overall, I think it's still too early to tell, as so far a lot of teams are looking good through week 1 of conference play. And I think KU's offense is legit. I think Jalen Daniels is a heck of a quarterback, but I think their defense has a lot to go. They might not have given up as many points as people thought they would against Duke, but I think that's just also playing against Duke. A lot of open receivers I saw today, but they definitely have improved a lot more than I think anyone thought they could this quick. But then in the Texas Tech and Texas game, saw the end of that and never would have thought Bijan Robinson would have fumbled in overtime like that. I was rooting for Tech for you guys, though. And then as a K-State fan, it was quite the difference in play calling today from what we saw against Tulane. And I think this aggressive offense where we took more shots downfield so teams weren't playing inside the box as much as Tulane got to get away with that. Playing inside the box and against a conservative offense that wouldn't take shots. And we saw what happens when an offense does take shots downfield against the defense. It keeps them honest. But I think next week I wouldn't be surprised to see KU beat Baylor. I think it's very possible they go bowling this year, but they also might.
Well, you're like 4 weeks in. Hey, well, hold on. You're like 4 weeks in the future here. Kansas plays Iowa State next week. You're talking about Kansas State?
Here I was talking about. I switched over to. I forgot to switch over to KU, but I think it's possible they go bowling.
KU plays Iowa State.
Yeah, I think that's a very winnable game for them.
All right. Hey, appreciate your call there, Robert.
All right. Yeah, Hunter Deckers.
We got a bunch in the line here.
Yeah.
All right. Chuck, what's up, man?
Kansas is for real. I'm not going to say they're going to win 8 games or 9 games.
Spreads.
They're going to go bowling. Worst team in the Big 12 is certainly the Mountaineers. They're just painful to watch. They will play at whatever level their opponent is. Best team in the Big 12, I want to say, is Oklahoma State, but Pistol Peter, I'm sorry, I can't say that for any team Spencer Sanders is the quarterback of. Man, guys, I think this conference is wide open. Like, I really do. Kansas State just showed how I don't want to say pedestrian because OU is still OU, but they're not invincible. K-State looked great. I was really happy with the adjustments that we saw on offense today with Kitley, and I don't want to say like he dumbed things down because that's not a fair it's not fair to word it that way, but the changes he made were obviously effective. Donovan Smith did not turn the ball over today. That was huge. We did not beat ourselves. I know everybody was annoyed with me at halftime for being semi-positive about things, but yeah, I think this conference is wide open, and I am really excited about the next 2 months of football.
Hey, Chuck, we appreciate the dedication for you to chime in on Gauchos After Dark when I can hear your 1-week-old crying in the background.
Actually no, dude. That's actually a cat. You want to real quick?
Oh,
I did think that was a cat.
No, seriously, I swear to God. So when we had our first kid, like cats meow for people, and because like cats domesticated themselves, he changed the way he meowed when we had our daughter. I swear to you, look it up. I'm not making this up. I have no reason to, but yeah, he sounds like a baby.
that's what I thought it was, and I was going to respect your priorities, but thanks for the thoughts, Chuck. Daniel, you're next. How real is Kansas? Who's number one in the Big 12? Who's number 10?
If I had to pick a number one in the Big 12 right now, I would have to go with Oklahoma State, although picking number one right now is, we're week 4, so it's so squishy. I'm still leaning towards number 10 as West Virginia, although, I know someone previously said they play to their opponent, but that win against Virginia Tech was pretty dang good. Like, got to give it to them. As far as Kansas goes, I'm not gonna lie. There's a very small portion of me who I think y'all said it on your podcast with Kyle, that there's a small portion of me that kind of wishes that Kansas would win the Big 12 this year. Um, I as far as how real they are, I don't know. I think that they could, they're going to lose a couple games, but I think that I think that the Big 12 should legitimately, Kansas is not a team that anyone in the Big 12 should look forward to their next opponent with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, even if they're not totally legit as like a good team, they're not just an easy automatic win like they were for 95% of teams over the last decade. And so
They're not who they once were. Like
yeah,
they're someone who everyone should, actually highlight and study film on going
yeah.
forward.
Honestly, it reminds me a lot of Big 12 basketball, like even the bottom of the conference, as quote unquote bad as it is, and like you might go 6-12 in Big 12 play, but like nobody wants to go to Manhattan or Stillwater over the last couple of years to play a basketball game. Like those are still tough games to win. And so, especially now that there's fans in Lawrence and they're selling out the game against Duke, even if they are 6-6 at the end of the year, that's not going to be an easy win, especially if you have to go to Lawrence. So I think at the very least their ascendance has kind of really solidified the bottom of the Big 12 and made it to where nobody, especially on the road, is an easy out. Adam, you're next. How real is Kansas? Who's number one? Who's number 10 in the Big 12?
Yeah, man. Just to qualify my statements, I am a K-State homer, so I gotta put that out there. That being said, I think Kansas is pretty legit. It's exciting to see them have, being a K-State fan, it's exciting to see the potential for there to be a competitive rivalry there. Jalen Daniels looking very strong. I mean, his odds boosted from, I think, 6,000 plus 6,000 to plus 4,000 after today, as far as Heisman goes. It's good to see Devin Neal get some carries. I know he's always been talked up as being a really good running back, and he only had let's see. So he had 700 yards last season, and through 4 games, he's already got 258 yards and half of the touchdowns he had last season. So it's shaping up to be a good season for the running back as well. Moving on to kind of the rankings amongst the Big 12, I would have to go along with what most everyone else is saying, that I think the Mountaineers are, unfortunately, the bottom of the conference. It's tough for me to say because they are, I would say, a generally pretty likable team. But that's just the way it goes. The top, I feel, is a bit of a toss-up. I think after tonight's game versus Oklahoma, K-State always shows up against Oklahoma, so we'll have to see how those two teams kind of shake out the rest of the season. It was good to see Adrian Martinez really step into the role that K-State hoped he would be, or that he would fill when they picked him up from Nebraska. Another thing of note tonight, there were no turnovers in that game, which has kind of helped Kansas State up until this point really seal the deal. So it's kind of a different story than we've been used to this season. But I'm belaboring the point anyway. I think it could be Baylor or Oklahoma State with a big question mark on Kansas State.
Good thoughts, and I think it's fair to say, like others have said, it's wide open. And the fact that Texas and OU start 0-1, I think really just breaks the door open for anybody, whether that's Oklahoma State, Baylor, or kind of a dark horse candidate to potentially get there. Because at this point, Texas and OU, one of them has to take another L because they've played each other. I mean, I could totally see a 7-2, maybe even a 6-3 team on a tiebreaker getting into that Big 12 championship game. So I think it just turns everything into a wide open race in the Big 12. Double T Willie, you're next, man. What's up?
Hey guys, appreciate you guys taking my call. Man, for the bottom, like everyone's saying, West Virginia just looks suspect. They do have a good win against Virginia Tech, but their inability to really move the ball is it's concerning. As far as the top, you got to look at Oklahoma State and Baylor. They look dominant, but there's not a full body of work yet. Let's get a couple more weeks into Big 12 play, and we'll be able to get a better picture of where the top looks like. I like our chances. I think we look good, man. As long as we're in the fight, I think we have a chance to be a gritty, hard-nosed team to punch out. Talent-wise, I don't know if we're there along with Baylor, but I do think that we have the ability to stay in every single game. As far as tonight, I'm just glad to see that, again, like with the Houston game, we didn't give up. We kept fighting. And even though 21 seconds, we give up a field goal, we didn't get out of the fight. We stayed in it. And this is just like we said with Houston, it is a culture building win. And for it to happen against UT, I just think it adds so much momentum moving forward for this program. Had Cliff or Matt had something like this at the beginning of their tenure, it could have possibly changed the trajectory of their entire, coaching stint here. Luckily, Joey's got it, and I think it's going to help us out moving forward. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, you talk about the big win. The biggest win that Cliff had on the schedule, that 2013 win against TCU on a Thursday night, we thought was going to be great. Not to cheapen your point there, I think it's a really good point, and especially going 3-1 and having that NC State game so early. When you lose to a ranked team early, you either just go downhill or get battle tested. And I think this team got battle tested on the road, and that really helped coming back home. And now you get to get battle tested in the Big 12 in back-to-back weeks. Talked about learning about Kansas over the next couple. You're going to learn a lot about Texas Tech too. Going to Manhattan and then to Stillwater, 2 huge games. Jabaro, what's up, man?
What's up, man?
How you doing?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Doing well. What's up?
Are we still doing the Kansas thing and the Big 12?
Is Kansas for real, and then top and bottom teams in the Big 12?
I think Kansas is an okay team. I think, like people were saying earlier, they're a 6-6 team. As for like top, I think it's Oklahoma State, just like everyone else was saying. I think Tech is right there. As for bottom, West Virginia, just like everybody else. But I think Tech has a chance this year. I can't say who's top right now, but I know for sure at the bottom is West Virginia.
Yeah, lots of West Virginias coming in the chat.
Rob loves to see
I
it.
agree. I mean, I've been saying this for 2 years. I'm glad everybody's catching up. Neil Brown is the worst coach in the Big 12, the worst team in the Big 12. We can all double down on that. And if it means, y'all keep saying, "Oh, great win from Kansas over West Virginia." West Virginia sucks. I mean, you can't have it both ways, guys.
I mean,
It's either a good win or West Virginia sucks.
well, okay, they won by 13 on the road as 13-point dogs, so they outperformed the spread by 26.
JT Daniels threw a pick six in overtime.
Does that not
Most
count?
unlikely 13-point win of all time.
It was on the scoreboard, wasn't it? That
Oh
counts.
my God! All right.
How many other teams have outperformed the spread by 26 on the road this year, Rob?
I just would like to get into Big 12 play before we start crowning Kansas as anything.
Okay, all right. We'll keep waiting on Kansas, I guess, but I don't know. I think they're semi-legit at least.
Semi.
What does it mean, Rob, for Texas and OU? If not so they were the two betting favorites in Vegas preseason. Now Baylor got some respect in like the preseason media poll or coaches poll, but I think it's fair to say Texas and OU were among the favorites to win the conference title. Starting out 0-1, what does that mean for the conference title race and just like Big 12 football moving forward this season?
Yeah, I think we could just double down saying it's wide open. Whenever the favorites lose early, they're having to fight back to get on top. It's just simple math. I know you like math, Kyle. So if Oklahoma is beaten early and they still have to play Bedlam and they still have to play Iowa State, who they struggle with, and they still have to play Texas in the Red River rivalry, you're saying one of those two teams is still going to get a loss. Texas still has to play Kansas, so there's a lot of
That's
tough
right.
games out there for these two programs
In Lawrence.
Which is probably an easier game for Texas. They can't beat them in Austin, but
Yeah.
if you're just looking at these two teams as kind of the favorites, which I don't know that you and I did, certainly Oklahoma, you're just having to reassess, and you're going to have to find out who's for real because Kansas State under Kleiman has been a little Jekyll and Hyde.
That's
going
fair.
back to year and week to week. So we'll see who they are next week.
I mean, I know you and I have talked about this before, Rob, but the Kansas State game last season, Texas Tech loses because they don't score a single point in the second half and they fire their head coach. But you remember the build-up to that game. K-State fans were fed up with Kleiman, and they were talking about potentially firing him if they lost that game.
Loser gets
And
fired, yeah.
And then they finished the season, pretty good. A great bowl win against LSU. They win in Norman tonight after losing to Tulane. So I think Jekyll and Hyde is a totally fair comparison there. Before we get to more speakers, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Gauchos After Dark, sponsored by our friends at Barnett, Howard, and Williams Law Firm, bhwlawfirm.com. They help with personal injury cases. They're certified for Title IX, student litigation. They handle cases all across the state of Texas. So they hope you never need them, but they're here in your corner if you do. Barnett, Howard, and Williams, bhwlawfirm.com. And we would love to hear from some of our listeners and followers from across the Big 12, not just Texas Tech fans. So if you're OK State or K-State, anybody like that, you want to chime in and give us your 2 cents on your team, feel free to. But we'll get to Mark real quick. Mark, how you doing?
Doing wonderful, man. Flying high after the events of this evening. So, but no, just piggybacking off what everybody else said. I think that we're seeing some changes that I really, really like out of this team. It looked really good as far as, like, I think one of you guys alluded to, not dumbing the playbook down, but making it more accessible. You got a quarterback who I think we absolutely watched mature as the game went on this evening, and I was just super impressed by that. But as far as the other questions that you guys are talking about, obviously West Virginia's worst right now. Number one, it obviously toss up between Baylor and Oklahoma State. I'm leaning more towards Baylor simply because I don't think there's another coach in the Big 12 that gets as much out of his players as Aranda does, and he's just kind of he's got that dog in him, and he brings the best out of his players every week. As far as everything else, I think we're definitely in the conversation as being somewhere towards the top. I think with this coaching staff that you see everybody continue to mature and people continue to buy into the program. And I think our trajectory is way up.
I certainly hope so. I am trying not to get too emotionally high after this Texas win because it's, as Joey McGuire said, just another Big 12 win. You don't want to put too much weight on it, but I certainly think if you can take aspects of what you did against Houston and aspects of what you did against NC State and aspects of what you did against Texas and put it all into one game, you can beat anybody in the Big 12 for sure. All right. Thank you, Mark. We will move on to Cole. Great name, by the way. Best team in the Big 12, worst team in the Big 12, and is Kansas legit?
Oh, shit. I joined late. So, best team in the Big 12. I mean, it's probably Oklahoma State. I would just say just by default. And worst team. Man, that's tough. This is a tough question because it just seems like the Big 12 is just going to be insane this year. Worst team, I'll go West Virginia. I don't even know.
That's been a popular answer.
I know they just came off the dub, but like, who knows? I don't know. That's a tough question. Who knows? It just seems like everyone's going to just get everyone's best shot every week. What was your last question?
Just your thoughts, man. What were you joining for?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to chime in. Congrats to Tech on the big win against Texas. Kind of like what you said, Rob, about, if you can piece together different aspects of each game. I'm a K-State fan, so and everything there. So, special teams against South Dakota State, defense against Missouri, offense against Oklahoma tonight. Like, if K-State can put all the pieces together week after week, which is going to be really hard to do, but kind of right where you're at, I think they can absolutely be at the very top and have a chance at the end of the season. They just got to find that consistency to do all those things. But no, it's been a great day of football. Go Cats, and another big win by Kleiman against OU. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for chiming in. And, looking ahead to a week from today, the winner of Texas Tech K-State is going to be 2-0 in the Big 12 and have a road win under their belt and have a win over either Texas or OU under their belt. So that, like I said, kind of funny that wound up being the 11 a.m. ESPN Plus game next week. I don't think anybody expected those two teams to be jockeying for a position at the top of the Big 12 after 2 weeks of conference play, but here we are. And I'm glad Adrian Martinez didn't write back. TTU 2-1. You're next, man. What's up? We lost him. Okay, he's back. Let me see. TTU 2-1. What's up, man?
I'm so sorry about that. I'm currently in Murdo Hall right now, and the Wi-Fi here sucks. So it's just Texas Tech Wi-Fi problems. So obviously, great win tonight. Earlier today. My question is to you guys: where do you guys see Texas Tech? It's about a month in. We've seen 4 games. When I saw the schedule when it came out, I was predicting I was being realistic 5-7, 6-6. After seeing a month of games and seeing where the Big 12 is right now, what is your prediction for this Texas Tech team? And I mean, Joey McGuire is getting these guys pumped up, pump jack mentality, of course. So I want to know, what are you guys thinking of where Texas Tech is headed for the rest of the schedule? So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So before the season, Rob and I did some season prop bets, and one of the questions I posed was, would you take 3-3 going into the bye week, or would you roll the dice? Rob, do you remember what your answer was to that question?
Roll the dice.
I said roll the dice too, and I'm glad I did because right now 3-3 is your floor, even if you lose the next two, which they're both going to be tough games, by the way. But obviously, you could theoretically do better. Whereas had you taken the 3-3, you're capping your ceiling. So I think even worst case scenario, let's say you do go into the bye 3-3. Maybe that means you're not getting very good quarterback play, and I think Shuck will be available after the bye week. Maybe that factors in. But I think you're going to be a really tough out for a lot of teams at home. And at this point, sitting at 3-1 today, with how tough this team seems between the ears, and the Houston games and the Texas games were not identical, but very similar, just in terms of as a fragile-minded fan sitting there in the stadium watching the game. It's here we go again. I've seen this movie a million times. We lose this game every time, but the players and the coaches are tough as nails, and they're figuring out a way to win these games. And so I love to see them living up to the brand that they've identified for themselves that we heard about all offseason. Because it's one thing to say we're the toughest, hardest working, most competitive team in the country. It's another thing to show it, in my opinion, twice in a row in 2 ranked wins at home. So at this point, to answer your question, I'd be a little bit disappointed if you didn't get to a bowl game at least. So let's say 6-6 as kind of the floor. And man, I would love to see you find a way to win 7 games in the regular season, maybe 8 with a bowl. So that's kind of where my expectations are at. I don't know what you think, Rob.
Yeah, 7-5 seems like a good number. I'm looking at our preseason picks, just the game by game. Kyle, you had Texas Tech at 8-4 with a 4-1 start, lost to NC State.
Right on track.
I also had them starting 3-1 with a win over Texas and a loss to NC State. But whereas you think or thought beforehand they beat Kansas State, I think they'll lose the next 2. I think Kansas State looks more realistic today than it did before the season. DH, what's up, man? Got Delta Michael? Delta?
Can you hear me?
Sinful. Sorry, yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate both of you, Gauchos and Rob. Just eating up all the material y'all are throwing out during the week, and just love every bit of it. So appreciate you guys first and foremost. Second, regarding this Kansas thing, I just put me in the camp of people that thinks everybody kind of needs to calm down a little bit. Kansas is a team that's been so abysmally bad. I think that now that they have of a one more conversation, your question would be, are they better? And then that's all. I don't know. Their first game is against like Tennessee Tech or something, which is like the equivalent of our Murray State. And then they beat Duke. They beat U of H. U of H is a quality win. But, I mean, if Kansas is legit, then you would have to say that Texas Tech is definitely legit. Knowing the landscape 12, everybody's going to say, every team in the Big 12 seems to have a puncher's chance, which is going to be bad. I think Texas Tech fans, or really any fan ever really wanted, is just a chance. You just want to know your team has a chance to win the dang game. And that's what's made kind of added to the malaise of Raiderland over the past decade is you get in and then your heart is broken or you feel like you don't have a shot. What I'm seeing this year, we've got fight. We've got a chance. There's a chance. You're still hanging in there in the third and fourth quarter. You can win this thing. It's going to be good and bad, I can see. We're going to have games this season where it's a puncher's chance and we fall short. Very well could happen and will happen. So I'm just excited to be able to tune in on that. Hey, we could have some fun. It's kind of like the good old days. So I hope it continues. Anyway, wreck 'em, guys.
Yeah, great thoughts. And I was actually talking about that with some friends after the game from the student vantage point, because students for the last decade, they didn't have literally a single win like this to hang their hat on, to tell their friends about, to tell their younger brother who is, starting as a freshman this year about. Like, they had none of that. And now if you showed up as a freshman this year at Tech, you stormed the field twice. You haven't seen Tech lose a game at the Jones. And there's this sense of like, if I'm not there, if I don't stay till the very end, I'm going to miss out on something big. And that is one of the main things that's been missing is the juice and the atmosphere in the stadium. because people show up because they've got tickets and they leave at halftime and we lose. And it's just like it hasn't been a fun experience, especially for 20-year-olds that have, every other option at the world at their fingertips. So it is really good to see what you're saying, where there's not a team on the schedule I don't see that you just know, like, okay, yeah, that game's going to be over at halftime. We don't have a shot. And the more games you are in the fourth quarter and the crowd's into it, the better. And like they'll keep coming back, and we got to just keep building up on that. So that's been really good to see that part kind of quickly turn around under McGuire.
Couple of other scores: USC 10-7 in the fourth quarter. 14-10, BYU leads Wyoming at halftime. Utah 24-6 over Arizona State. I tried for the new coach bump. I don't think that's going to work. It was a 16-point line though. And then Stanford, Washington. Stanford stinks. Is David Shaw finally going to get fired? That's another
No,
question.
no.
I don't think they care enough.
How about Wazoo? They almost won. They wound up losing, but they almost had a win over Wisconsin and Oregon under their belt to start 4-0. They kind of choked that away, but Eric Morris, their offensive coordinator, they seem to be doing all right.
Dog.
Joel Filani's out there too.
Dog. What's up, Chuck?
Let me pull up my picks and see how I did today. I think it wasn't good because I did a lot of prop bets as like emotional hedges. So I nailed Baylor, nailed TCU. Sonny Cumbie, Louisiana Tech, they lost by 24. Had A&M winning, took the over. So look at this, Rob. The total in K-State OU was 53.5, and they scored 75. That was strictly a pick based on K-State going 0-3 against the over to this point. I was like, they got to go over eventually, so I had the over in that one. But yeah, I missed everything related to the Tech UT game because I was emotionally hedging, so I missed out on that and Louisiana Tech.
I also emotionally hedged today. I picked Florida plus 11 against my Tennessee Volunteers. That cashed.
What? Your Tennessee Volunteers?
Yeah, they're going to win the East over Georgia.
Oh, right. Yeah, because we're fading Georgia.
I faded this team on A&M, who started -6, got to -2.5, and Arkansas lost by 2. So that sucked. Lost Oklahoma, lost the under on Texas Tech, lost Texas Tech -5. I thought Indiana Power 5 team could stay with Cincinnati. They did not. Yeah, I'm awful today. 4-7 so far. And I still have 0-5 to finish so far. Oh, yeah, this is brutal. But I'm +8 in the last 7, so +15 in the last 30.
We'll take it.
Today won't hurt too bad.
Yeah. Chuck, what's up, man?
Just looking back, recapping the day, I've got some slander. A&M is not good. They lost to App State, who lost to James Madison today. They barely beat Miami at home, who then proceeded to lose to Middle Tennessee State. Middle Tennessee's first win over a ranked opponent in their school's history. Arkansas barely beat Missouri State last week at home. Today was a tickle fight. And everyone's supposed to look at it and say, oh, SEC. No, the SEC West is Alabama and a bunch of other middle-of-the-road Big 12 schools. They are not good at football, and they will be exposed in bowl season, even after they selectively choose the best matchups for their teams. Okay, that was all. I think that was all the slander I've got for now. I've got more. I'll keep looking.
Do you know what Middle Tennessee State's mascot is?
Why would I know that, Kyle?
They are. So here's why. They're the Blue Raiders. And so I saw a really
Okay,
good
I don't
meme.
hate it.
It was like Red Raiders and Blue Raiders shaking hands, and where they were shaking hands was like Texas and Miami not being back. So there was also a year in the NCAA tournament where you were in the same region as Middle Tennessee, and I was like, we need a Red Raiders Blue Raiders matchup, but it didn't pan out.
Well, see, now you're also making me think of, not to slander Hudson Carr, but you want to talk about like the epitome of bus driver. Like you said, red and blue, and that just immediately made me think of what I said in the Discord today. was he's going to look great playing for SMU next year after Art shows up in Austin.
Yeah, I think he would do well at SMU. He fits the profile for sure.
He's
Uh,
got the SMU quarterback name. He's he's
yes,
a bus driver. He's not going to wow you, but he's going to put you in a spot to win a game.
I would love to see him start over Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning next year if he earns the job in fall camp like he did this year before the booster stepped in. But if he
Anything that
doesn't go that route, then
I'm
SMU would
long
be a good
saying
fit.
I'm long saying in the pod that like just completely shoots it down. I'm like, did he, Kyle?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Chuck. Terry, you're next. What's up?
You're muted, Terry. Going once, Terry. Going twice.
All right, we can maybe try and come back to Terry in a minute. In the meantime, we've got Quinn 3 in the spaces. What's up, man?
A brave Texas fan.
And he's gone.
Well, he tried.
Yeah, I was actually curious to see what that was about.
He commented earlier he took Texas Tech as an emotional hedge and cashed. So I'm sure he was just going to tell us about that.
Yeah, good for him. I won't out anybody here, but after the game, I was hanging out in the West Side parking lot and ran into a listener of ours, and he was like, "Yeah, I wasn't gonna bet on this game, but had one too many last night and put $500 on the Tech money line at plus 240." I was like, "Well, you go, man." So he got like $1,200 today. I normally would not recommend that betting strategy for anybody, but it worked out for him. So good to him. Terry, are you in?
Yeah, I didn't want to get into mixing in with all you guys. Just wanted to say, let's go, Red Raiders.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Let's
Appreciate it.
go.
Hey, that's a good one to end on, I think.
Sounds good. Hey, thank you everybody for tuning in to Gauchos After Dark, sponsored by Barnett, Howard, and Williams. If you weren't here at the beginning, they get credit for the win today because one of their guys was on Texas -6.5 as the emotional hedge, and so they're taking credit for the win. BHWLawFirm.com. We do Gauchos After Dark spaces every college football Saturday to kind of recap that day in college football around the Big 12. Appreciate y'all joining in and listening. And I guess that's it. Love y'all.
Somebody go check on Doss.